Looking at the banking sector, driving a lot of activity within the NSE 20, your thoughts on the kind of results that we can see coming through from the banking sector?
We expect to see generally solid earnings from the sector, and so that I think that's going to be supportive of the current valuations. We think the banks will still continue to post reasonably good earnings. Obviously, cost of funding will be a concern, but I think on overall they'll remain reasonably good earnings.
Looking at Diamond Trust Bank starting to trade its rights issue today, they're looking to get about $1.8 billion. Now, that's the bank's third rights issue.
Yes, that's right. They've been raising capital in small tranches, so 1.8 billion shillings. And we think the offer is going to be taken up. They're actually starting trading today for the rights, and the offer is going to close August 10th. But we think the uptake is actually going to be quite good.
Looking at Fly 540, facing some headwinds over there in Kenya. Now the airline is under some sort of scrutiny after the sale of its shares to Rubicon. Could you kindly explain what is actually going on that front?
Well, I guess the issue is the issue of interpretation with regards to the difference between economic interest and ownership. Because essentially to have a license within Kenya, you actually need local ownership. But what the company did is that they sold 49% of the company, and then the controlling shareholder who's local and owns 51% sold the majority of shares in that company. So in total, Rubicon really controls almost 99% economic interest. But the interpretation is that the 51% company, even though a foreigner owns a big proportion of it, is actually still a local company, in which case it would still qualify as a Kenyan company.
So what the regulator is technically saying that they want a FastJet when it comes online to remain a local airliner?
Well, now it's a complication because you can only operate as a Kenyan airline, so using Kenya as a hub, and that has big implications in terms of competitiveness. So whether they are going to have their license renewed is now the bone of contention, with the two different arguments.
Looking at the competition within the airline space, we do have Kenya Airways operating within that space. What is the competition landscape like there, and what does this all mean for Kenya Airways?
We saw Kenya was struggling to raise funding locally, and you can understand now the predicament that Fly 540 is on. Unless Kenya Airways managed to raise the required funding, and they're now on an expansion mode. Depending on how the Fly 40 deal goes ahead, then that could have big implications in terms of whether Kenya Airways gets a significant competitor or not.
Let's move on now, looking at the launch of 4G. It has been given the go-ahead after that agreement between a government and 9 firms. Could you kindly talk us through when this is all going to come online?
They're saying they're going to start rolling out the network in the next couple of months, and they think big end of this year they're going to see some towns actually switched on. We think probably going to start with Nairobi, the main towns first.
And then what does it mean for Safaricom? Because we know that Safaricom has been a front runner on this front. What will happen when this comes online? Are they going to find some way of working together?
Well, this network will actually be shared across all the players. So the government will actually contribute frequencies for its stake, and then the other players will actually contribute funding in order to get a stake in this company. And then they'll probably share, I suspect, using frequencies in order to just roll up the network. But I think the main challenge here is once the network is up and running, 4G equipment is actually quite expensive. So in terms of the users, what equipment they can actually use, to have the 4G. So I think the challenge here is to actually get affordable 4G gadgets.
Affordable 4G gadgets. Let's go back to the market. We did see it trading in positive territory in yesterday's trading session. What kind of trade can we see coming through for the rest of the week, and which are your stock picks?
I think we're still going to see moderate trading. I think investors are positioning themselves for first half earnings. Others are sort of holding off to see, how the earnings come through, because also the valuation upside to become quite expensive in some cases. We are looking at Kenol Kobil quite keenly. We think it's still a good buy. Obviously, the first half earnings are going to be very disappointing, but we think the deal with Puma Energy is actually still going to come through. So we're still hopeful on that.
And we're looking at the shilling. It has been pretty strong of late, with the central bank coming in and mopping up liquidity. We also had that interest rate decrease 2 weeks ago. Your thoughts on kind of trade we could see coming through for the shilling this week?
We think it's still going to remain within very narrow bounds. I mean, despite the rate cut, we've not seen major impact on the shilling. The central bank has been in the market almost consistently, and that's really provided a lot of support for it, because the central bank really has been mopping up liquidity. And we think that's going to continue until there's some sort of, the central bank is comfortable with the level of liquidity. So, I think at the moment you're still seeing very narrow ranges.